Title: The Isles of Despair. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sterile glow over the deserted aisles of the supermarket. It was well past midnight, and the only sound that echoed through the empty space was the faint buzz of the flickering bulbs and the occasional creak of settling shelves. But despite the stillness, there was an unsettling feeling in the air, as if the very walls of the store were alive with unseen eyes watching every move. Jake, a weary college student, had taken the graveyard shift at the local supermarket to make ends meet. As he made his rounds through the aisles, restocking shelves and checking inventory, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He chalked it up to exhaustion, his mind playing tricks on him in the dead of night. He paused in front of the canned goods section, reaching for a can of soup to place on the shelf when he heard it. A soft whisper, barely audible over the hum of the lights. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest as he scanned the empty aisles, searching for the source of the sound. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice echoing through the silence. But there was no response, only the eerie stillness of the deserted supermarket. Shaking his head, Jake tried to push aside his growing unease. He told himself it was just his imagination running wild, that there was a logical explanation for everything. But as he continued his rounds, the feeling of being watched only intensified, like a weight pressing down on his shoulders with each step he took. As he turned into the frozen food section, Jake caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of his eye. He spun around, his heart racing, but there was nothing there. Just the rows of freezer doors lining the aisle, their glass surfaces reflecting the dim light in distorted patterns. "Enough is enough," Jake muttered to himself, his nerves frayed. He decided to finish his shift early, eager to escape the oppressive atmosphere of the supermarket. But as he made his way towards the exit, he heard it again, the whispering growing louder this time, as if a multitude of voices were speaking in hushed tones all around him. Fear gripped Jake's heart as he broke into a run, his footsteps echoing through the empty store. He reached the front doors and yanked them open, expecting to burst out into the cool night air. But to his horror, he found himself face to face with a solid wall of darkness, stretching out infinitely in all directions. Panic surged through Jake as he realized he was trapped, the supermarket now a labyrinth of aisles that seemed to twist and turn in on themselves. Frantically, he tried to retrace his steps, but every path he took led him deeper into the maze, the whispering growing louder with each passing moment. Desperation clawed at Jake's mind as he stumbled through the endless aisles, his sense of time and space warped by the oppressive darkness. He called out for help, but his voice was drowned out by the cacophony of whispers that surrounded him, their words unintelligible yet filled with a sense of dread that chilled him to the bone. Just when Jake thought he couldn't take it anymore, he stumbled upon a small alcove hidden away in the depths of the supermarket. In the center of the alcove stood a single aisle, its shelves lined with products long past their expiration dates, covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. As Jake approached the aisle, he felt a sense of dread wash over him, as if some dark force lurked within its shadows. But he had no other choice. The whispers had grown so loud now that they threatened to drive him mad, and he knew he had to confront whatever lay within. With trembling hands, Jake reached out and grabbed a can from the shelf, his fingers closing around it with a sense of inevitability. But as he pulled the can closer, he recoiled in horror at the sight that greeted him. A face, contorted in agony, staring back at him from within the darkness of the can. He dropped the can with a cry of revulsion, stumbling backwards as the shelves began to tremble, their contents shaking violently, as if possessed by some unseen force. And then, with a deafening roar, the shelves collapsed in on themselves, sending a wave of debris crashing towards Jake. He barely had time to react, diving out of the way as the shelves came crashing down around him, burying the aisle in a mountain of twisted metal and shattered glass. Gasping for breath, Jake pulled himself to his feet, his body aching from the impact. But as he surveyed the wreckage around him, he realized with a sinking feeling that he was not alone. Emerging from the shadows of the ruined aisle were figures, their forms twisted and distorted, their eyes empty sockets that seemed to pierce straight through to Jake's soul. With a cry of terror, Jake turned and ran, his footsteps echoing through the maze of aisles as he desperately searched for an escape. But no matter which way he turned, the figures pursued him, their whispers growing louder with each passing moment until they filled his mind with a deafening roar. And then just when he thought he could run no further, Jake stumbled upon a door hidden away in the depths of the supermarket, a door that glowed with an otherworldly light, promising escape from the nightmare that had consumed him. With a final burst of strength, Jake threw open the door and stepped through, his heart pounding in his chest as he emerged into the cool night air. But as he turned back to look at the supermarket, he saw with horror that it was no longer there, replaced instead by an empty expanse of darkness that stretched out to the horizon. Trembling, Jake collapsed to his knees, the events of the night crashing over him like a tidal wave. And as he looked up at the star-filled sky above, he knew with a sinking feeling that he would never escape the memories of the horrors that had lurked within the aisles of the supermarket. For in that moment, he realized that the true terror was not in the darkness itself, but in the shadows that lurked within the human heart.